Chapter 27, Camp West. As we walked through the entrance of Camp West, the layout was very similar to Camp 47. I felt the same sense of safety and security. Star children of all ages came to greet us as we carried Mr. Gallinus's body. Two older boys brought a cot to lay his lifeless body on. Campers had flowers in their hands, laying them one by one beside his body. A few younger girls handed Mike a flower, expressing their condolences for his loss. Across the way, I noticed a little girl sitting alone against the tree, reading with headphones. Suddenly, an interesting feeling overcame me. I strolled over to investigate what she was reading to ease my curiosity. Her hair was dark brown, braided into two pigtails. The classic three-strand braids were uniquely wrapped as they stopped halfway down with a band, and the rest of her hair flowed down past her shoulders. As I approached her, a familiarity set in. Then it came to me who she was. The little girl Mike and I had saved over a year ago. That was the time we stopped a 50,000-pound trailer from crushing her and her parents. Hope? I questioned. She glanced up from her book, and a cheerful smile went from ear to ear, with her eyes full of excitement. Amber, you're here already. They said you were coming. Hope threw the book down, jumped up quickly, and gave me a big hug. I should have known you were a star child, I said while releasing her tight grip. She reached down to pick up a flower and handed it to me. I heard about Mr. Gallinus. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you, I said as I sniffed the beautiful violet flower. The book she threw down caught my eye. I reached down to pick it up. Darkest Souls. I read this when I was 18. Very advanced for your age. You must be a crystal. That's correct. Hope had a radiant smile that glowed almost infectiously. I handed the book back to her. Where are your parents? Are they star children too? Hope's smile disappeared and her face became etched with sadness. About 6 months ago, Mom, Dad, and I were at a local grocery store. When we walked out to our car, a group of trackers shot at us, unknowing who they were at the time. She took a deep breath and sighed. I too was shot, she added as she slid her shirt collar to the side to show me a small scar. They came to kill me. My empath ability was full of heartbreak. I woke up in the hospital with my Aunt Macy by my side, breaking the news to me about my parents not making it. Oh, Hope, I'm so sorry, I empathized. It was so tragic that a young girl like her had to experience such a horrific loss and feel scared for her life. Once I recovered, my aunt took me to her home, but I was fearful that they would find out I survived and attempt to kill me again. As my emotions grew stronger, so did my abilities. Luckily, a few weeks later, your grandfather found me. He promised us sanctuary and safety here. We have been here ever since. I smiled. Well, I'm glad you were here. Hope slowly twirled her hair while focusing on her feet. Aside from that, something happened a few days ago, and I need to show you, she urged. Show me? I was curious what ability couldn't be told. I set the flower against the tree. Hope reached for my left hand and placed hers in mine. Her hand felt ice cold, but instantly shifted to a warm vibration of energy, which transposed in through my entire body. Her brown eyes shifted to a glowing blue color, twinkling with ice crystals. This confirmed what I'd seen the day of the car incident. Hope closed her eyes as I followed her lead and did the same, embracing what happened next. The trickling vibration of energy continued to move internally, and suddenly, with my eyes closed, somehow a bright white light pierced through the eyelids. Once it ceased, I was able to zero in on the memory she wanted me to see. Across the way was a fallen tree that laid on a nearby creek. Hope was hopping across the wet logs, smiling and enjoying herself. I yelled out to her to be careful, and nothing came out of my mouth. Suddenly, she slipped and screeched as she fell backward. The backside of her head made a cracking sound when it smashed on the log. I covered my face in shock as the water flooded with red. Instead of screaming in pain, she was knocked unconscious or possibly worse. Then the white light reappeared. The intense brightness was a bit uncomfortable but manageable. The woods were no more, and the memory shifted to another. I stood in an enormous room with several large ivory pillars wrapped in a gold trim. The ceilings and wall had a matching gold trim that sparkled like glitter. This was incredible. A tall, brawny man wearing an ivory cloak stood in front of a stone chair with his chest pushed out and head up high, curly long hair, muscular body, and a lightning bolt in his hand. I knew exactly who that was: Zeus, the leader of Mount Olympus from the planet Pleiades. In front of him stood a familiar face. It was Electra's sister, Merope. She was pleading with Zeus to be returned to Earth after the body she'd inhabited had ended. I listened closer to recognize the body she spoke of was Alex's. Zeus asked her one question: "If I send you back to inhabit another human body, what do I get in return?" Her response was, "I vow to assist Electra in defeating Orion. We will return him to the underworld with Hades, where he belongs." She knelt on one knee, bowed her head, and said one more thing: "You have my word." Watching this made me realize we couldn't just kill Jasper. If we did that, Orion's soul would just find another body to inhabit. We have to send Orion to Hades to never return. Zeus stepped forward with his lightning bolt above his head, but instead of zapping her into a million pieces, he tapped the bolt on the tip of her forehead. "Do not make me regret this," he huffed in his deep, scary tone. Before any more could be shown, the white light pierced again. The next memory brought us back to the daunting scene at the creek. Hope was lying unconscious again against the log with water splashing on her. Blood filled the water. I felt a sadness overcome me while I gawked at her lifeless body, unable to run to her so I could help. But then something above caught my eye. It was heading right for Hope. Swirls of radiant purple moving at rapid speed slid through the air. I recognized the same color of energy from the day of Alex's funeral. Once it reached her body, the moving energy pushed directly into her chest. Hope popped up immediately, eyes widened, and she gasped for air. She reached for her head to examine what should be covered in blood, but it was healed. She was saved. The white light appeared one last time and the vision ended. My eyes opened and I was back at camp. Hope's eyes were not glowing crystals of blue anymore. They'd altered to a violet color, the same as mine. A few seconds later, they returned to her normal brown. Even though the memory was over, the emotions were stuck inside. Tears dropped from both eyes. She released her hand from mine and took her sleeve to wipe my cheek. "Merope," I stated. She nodded. I gave her a big hug and she squeezed me in return. My soul sister was back. My wrist still had the bracelet that Alex had given me. I unclasped it. "This is yours," I said as I reached for her wrist. "Your gift is extraordinary. I can feel the emotions shared. A very powerful ability." Very slowly, my emotions came back to reality. "Does anyone know who your soul is?" I asked. She shook her head no. "Not yet." "I'm so sorry about your parents," I whispered. "I saved your parents' lives only for death to find them another way." She sighed. "You gave them 6 extra months with me, and that I'm thankful for." I placed my right hand on this brave little girl's shoulder. "You are such a smart, strong-willed young lady." I looked deep into her brown eyes. "Your past doesn't define who you are now, and those grievous memories aren't your destiny." She smiled and twirled her pigtail. "Your ability to show others your past and share Merope's memories is incredible. Being at Camp West is exactly where you need to be. I'm glad you were here." "Me too," she shouted. "How are we supposed to send Orion to the underworld on a different planet?" I asked. "If we kill Jasper, Orion will find another human body to control." She seemed a bit confused. "Actually, I don't know. Not all of Merope's memories are clear, and to be honest, I'm not even sure she knew how to get him to the underworld. I was kind of hoping you knew." I shook my head no. "Only lead I have is the tree. Maybe the tree of knowing will have the answers." While both of us pondered the situation, a beautiful young lady approached us. I recognized her from the memories. "Hi, I'm Macy, Hope's aunt." I shook her hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Amber." "So you are the famous Amber that Hope talks about." "Well, I don't know about being famous. Death still found them." She looked down at Hope. "It was a tragic event. Hope was lucky enough to only sustain a small bullet wound. It could have been way worse, but I believe being here is the safest place for her. I nodded. Agreed. I hear you're going to stop Jasper, she asked. Well, I am. After the service, we plan to hike to the Tree of Knowing. Good. Hopefully, you guys get the answers you seek, Macy said. I'm going with them, Hope exclaimed. No, absolutely not. It's too dangerous with Jasper still out there, Macy demanded. But I need to go, Hope whined. The look on Macy's face was a firm no, but Hope was right. She should be there for this. Having Merope and Electra together might be beneficial to get the information we needed. You're staying at camp, Macy barked. My decision is final. That's not fair. You never let me do anything challenging. Hope, I chimed in. There's a chance we could encounter trackers on the way. It's probably best you stay here. She crossed her arms and huffed. I have to go help them get the funeral ready, Macy said. It was nice meeting you, Amber. Likewise. As she walked away, I tapped into Hope's thoughts. Don't worry, you're coming with us. I'll have a plan. She perked a smile. I thought that cheered her up. We met up with everyone, and it was time to peacefully carry him to the burial ground where all the lost star children were buried. Once we got to the graveyard, it was roughly the same size as the other camp. What Dappa had done brought moisture to my eyes. Being pregnant made it difficult to control my emotional feelings of sadness, but it was depressing. I questioned if the other two camps had just as many youthful bodies 6 feet under. My heart broke to know that this battle between good and evil had been going on for so long while I was at home living a normal life with my husband. It was only a week ago that Mike and I thought we were the only people gifted. Made me wonder if I could have done something sooner to stop these innocent star children from losing their lives at such a young age. Once they buried his body and we laid him to rest as a hero, everyone dispersed. I stayed back staring at all the graves, feeling some pressure to be the one to end the bloodshed. But the number of crosses that stood before me was a reminder of why I needed to do this and the importance to complete my mission. My grandpa joined me with Thor by his side. I admired his leg. Zeke patched you up? He patted his thigh. Yes, good as new. I have to say, you three have an amazing healing ability. That would have been handy in my past. I continued my deep thoughts, hoping that I didn't have to bury Mike anytime soon. Everyone had lost a loved one during our journey, and I didn't know if I could handle losing my other half. Things will get better, Grandpa assured. I took a deep breath and exhaled. I hope you're right. Moment of silence as we stood together. After lunch, we march on to the Tree of Knowing. That is where your destiny will be shown to you, Grandpa said as he broke a small smile. But before we go, I want to talk to you and Mike. It's time you know the truth of why his grandfather and I are here. I nodded. I was ready to finish my destiny for the sake of the rest of the star children and this newborn baby. Let's hope this tree had the answers I needed to send Orion back to where he belonged.